Andrew. My name is Noda from Adways. I'm from Japan. I'm wearing this happy. This is like a traditional Japanese stuff. Okay, so today I'd like to talk about the general app market, app markets in Asia, and get into some user acquisition differences in East Asia and Southeast Asia as well. So first, I'd like to explain a bit about what Adways is, what our company is. So we're a company headquartered in Tokyo. We've been around for 13 years. And we're mainly an online advertisement company now, and we have offices in 11 countries and 17 cities worldwide. But as you can see with the flags, it's mainly, we have mainly Asian operation, except for our US San Francisco office. And for the past few years, our focus has been on app marketing, like mobile marketing. We name ourselves as Adways App Agency. And we're our global partners for companies such as Twitter, Facebook, Line, Kakao, Imobi, and so on. So we work with most of the big local publishers, ad networks in Asia, and even globally as well. So that's the brief introduction of our company, and I'd like to get into the market overview from here. So first, this is just showing, this is a data from App Annie, data from August this year. So this is a market share by region in terms of revenue for App Store. So as you can see, Asia is the largest App Store market already with the 44% market share, and North America and EU follows. But for Android, Asia's market share it's even bigger, where as Asia takes up 60% of the market, and North America and EU follows as well. And if we look at this in terms of country basis, for App Store, iOS, USA is the biggest, but Japan and China follows, and besides that, UK, Australia, Canada, Germany, France. So like European or some North American countries follow as well. But for Asia, the Japan and China is the two biggest markets for App Store, iOS. And for Google Play, the market share, it's kind of different, where Japan has the largest Google Play market in terms of revenue, grossings, and USA follows, but South Korea, as you may know, the market itself is like 80–90% Android market. So South Korea has a pretty good market share in terms of Google Play. And besides that, UK, Taiwan, Germany, France, Hong Kong follows. So out of this, Taiwan came up for Android as well. So for Android, Google Play, Japan, South Korea, and Taiwan is the three biggest market. But please note that China is not included in here because China's Google Play, it basically don't exist. So I will follow up on this later on the slide. And this is just to summarize. If you add up the data, numbers for App Store and Google Play, which country is the biggest? It ends up that Japan has the largest app market now. It's even bigger than US now. And it's followed by South Korea, China, UK, Germany, Australia, France, and so on. So obviously Japan's the biggest market in Asia, and South Korea and China follows. So I just took a look at the market worldwide. But if you look at within just Asia only, which markets are bigger? So for App Store, so I think you saw Japan and China, but besides Japan and China, which markets are big? So I just listed up the top 10 App Store markets that's big in Asia. So if it's followed by Taiwan, South Korea, Hong Kong, and then the Southeast Asian markets follows. And if you look at Android, Google Play, South Korea is a bit bigger. It's similar markets like Taiwan, Hong Kong, and Southeast Asian markets follows. But I think, as you can see, like India in number 8, India is also a big Android-based market as well. So actually, in terms of number of downloads, India is already number 2 or 3 in the world. So already a huge number of Android devices selling, and the market's definitely growing. But in terms of the business side, in terms of revenue, it's still very small. So I think it's going to take maybe a few more years, but it's definitely going to come if you look at the Asian market as well. And this is this slide is just talking about the market share between iPhone, iPad, and Google Play. The left-hand side, it's starting from Japan, China, South Korea, and so on. And I'm comparing this with some of the European countries as well. So to make some notes, Japan, Android, and iOS, the market size it's pretty much similar. But for China, since Google Play basically don't exist, it seems as though iOS is much bigger, but actually Android is bigger. But I can talk about this later on as well. And South Korea, as I mentioned, 90% of the app market's owned by Android. So it's dominant, Android dominant market, and Taiwan also as well. Android is much bigger. But if you look at Thailand and Indonesia, like Southeast Asian markets, it's still iOS is bigger if you include the iPad as well. And other notes is say for example, like Japan, South Korea, and Taiwan as well. The green graph shows the market share of iPad. So you can see it's very small. So it's much bigger in China where it's 23%, which is similar to European countries as well. But Japan, Korea, and Taiwan, other Asian markets, like East Asian markets, the tablet market, people do use tablets. People do read comic books, like e-books with it, but not so much as to playing games, paying on the games. So this is some other unique points about East Asia as well. So this is the general the market share, market data that comes from Asia, but this is basically on the data from App Store and Google Play. So I'd like to share some topics on certain countries that has some exceptions. So starting with China, as I mentioned, Google Play, Google Play is growing as well, but it's still very small within the market. And they say that there's 200 or several hundred third-party Android markets in China, but actually, so it seems as though it's very complicated. It's still complicated, but now the market's changing, where especially these 4 guys, so Baidu, 360, Tencent, and the last one is called Wandoja. So these 4 players makes up about the majority of the Android market in China. So it's not a smart move to work with only one third-party app store in Android. But if you can work with these 4 markets, 4 app stores, they make up the most of the market share. So I think that would be good enough for China as a start. And actually for iOS, before they had a lot of jailbreak markets as well, but since iOS 7, it became more difficult to jailbreak, so the jailbreak market's decreasing. So I think it's even less than 20% now. So for iOS, it's simply App Store. But for Android, these 4 third-party Android app stores will be your key distribution channel for China. And for Taiwan, so Taiwan, I think, as seen here, Google Play market, in terms of Android, they're already number 3 in the market in Asia. But actually, it's even bigger than you think, because actually there are 2 major third-party payment channels available. So one's called MyCard and others called Gash from a company called Gamania. So these were like a virtual currency third-party payment service that was available since PC online games, and they provide this service for mobile as well. So For some reason on Google Play, Google still, I don't think it's official, but some developers implement these kind of third-party payments as well. And when we talk to some top developers in Taiwan, they say about 50% of their revenue comes from Google Checkout, but the rest of the 50% comes from these channels. So the actual Taiwan's Google Play market, it's bigger than you see on data from like App Annie or like those kind of research companies. So if you look, if you are to look into Taiwan, these two payment channels will be important as well. And for Southeast Asia, Vietnam is a very unique market. So it's similar to Taiwan, there's other payment channels, and when compared to Taiwan, Vietnam has much bigger market. These kind of third-party payment has much bigger market share. So it's kind of crucial to work with these kind of companies. But it's mainly carrier bidding. So if you work with the telcos in Vietnam, it should be okay. And I hear the actual commission is around 20%. So it's less than the 30% for Google and Apple. And this goes the same for Taiwan's Markcard and Gash as well. I hear it's around 20%, but it depends on the games as well. So you have to negotiate with them. But it's definitely lower than 30%. So those are the special issues. So just looking back at some of the key issues. So Asia is obviously the largest app market in the world, and East Asia is huge. It's mainly Android driven, and Southeast Asia is growing very quickly as well. And as I mentioned, there are some local issues that you need to look into, especially third-party app markets in China. There are some third-party app markets in Korea as well, but mainly China. And the payment channels, especially in Taiwan and some in Southeast Asia, these will be some key issues for Asian market. And so those are like the general market issue. And now going into more user acquisition stuff. So starting with East Asia. So this is like the basic UA strategy that we talked to for East Asia. So this is like 3 steps in terms of marketing. So first is, I think this is kind of unique in Asia, but there are such platforms called like pre-launch marketing, like a online registration service for games. So this is like a media platforms where users can go, and there's a whole bunch of games listed that's before launch, and user can reserve the games. And when the app is launched, they get push message from those platforms, and they can play the games, and they get some special items. So it's starting to become general marketing stuff. Especially in East Asia, that before launch, of course, you do like you use Twitter, Facebook, YouTube for social media marketing, but you also use these kind of pre-launch marketing as well. And after that, the burst campaigns, it's still big in Asia. So burst campaigns to get the ranking up and get the organic users. And after that, it's simple, not just the quantity of the users, but quality of the users. So you work with Facebook and local ad networks to get quality users. So these are like the 3 major steps that we work for the UA in East Asia. And getting into more details. So as I explained, pre-launch marketing, it's very big in Japan, and it now has spread to Korea and China as well. So these are some of the major platforms for pre-launch marketing in East Asia. And what's good about it is the quality of the users is very good, because the users are willing to even reserve to know about the app's launch. So that means obviously they're interested in the game. So they're very high engagement users. So in general, we see much higher retention, much higher engagement, and even the ARPU is higher compared to like the organic users that you acquire. So we really recommend developers to use these kind of marketing channels before launch. In Japan or Korea, you normally get around like 10,000 to like 30,000 users. So that means you have close to those kind of number of users, high quality users before launch. It's really a good marketing channels, and especially in China. The middle one's called QQ. I think some of you might know. This is like the major chat app in China provided by Tencent. They have hundreds of millions of users, and they started providing these kind of pre-launch marketing services within their chat application, and they can get like million users before launch. So I've seen, because Candy Crush, they work with Tencent to launch their game. So they did the pre-launch marketing with this QQ app. And I saw before Candy Crush was launched in China, they already had like 1 million users before launch. So it's amazing. So this is the pre-launch marketing. And second is in Japan. So it's basically, as I explained, pre-launch marketing, burst campaign, and some ad networks. And for ad networks, it's basically Facebook and some local ad networks. There's a couple ad networks that's really strong called NEND and iMobile. These two are strong. These kind of players have been around for a long time. But this year, Twitter launched, and this has been a good news for user acquisition developers in Japan because it's been working really well. We're seeing some good numbers. For example, for some RPG game in Japan, we did a campaign through on Twitter, and we got close to 11,000 users per month, and the CPI was about 350 yen. So this is around like $2.50 for euro. So it's really good. And even for a casual game, we got more than 20,000 users and less than 50 cents. So this is really good because when you work with ad networks, you try to go under around like 4 euros for the acquisition cost. That's like the target that we look at. But because the competition is really tough, it's really even hard to get to those kind of CPIs. But because Twitter's mobile ad menu, it's pretty new. So we're still seeing some great numbers here. So we recommend Twitter for Japan. Other East Asian markets, China, they don't exist, and Korea and Taiwan, they're very small. So it's basically Japan only, but it's a very good channels to use. And for Taiwan and South Korea, this is for Android. These two markets have very limited options for marketing channels. So you kind of have to consider utilizing these kind of incentivized CPI channels. And if you look at the numbers, it's some huge numbers that they can drive. So MyCard and Line, they provide incentivized CPI on Android. They can drive 200,000 downloads per week for one app. So you need about 150,000 downloads per week to get into the top rankings on Google Play. So either one of the app alone can drive those kind of numbers. For Taiwan and South Korea, it's not as big as Taiwan, but it's still big, where these kind of apps can drive up to like 60 to 90,000 downloads per week per app. And these the cost for these kind of app is like around like 30 cents per install. So the install, the cost itself is it tends to be lower compared to like Japan as well. So these are like 3 key unique points in East Asia for UA. And just to talk about to wrap it up, the key insights. As I mentioned, pre-launch marketing, it's very effective. So you can get high engagement users. And in Asia, local ad networks are very strong. So you have to look into the local channels that's strong in each market. It's not necessary that certain Japanese ad network is strong throughout East Asia. So you have to look at each market. But except Facebook. Facebook it's a very good channels. And Twitter, as I mentioned, in Japan only, Twitter works as well. And third is, I believe incentivized like burst campaigns, it's not as popular in the Western markets. for the past few years, but still in Asia, it's still huge, and especially in Taiwan and Korea, because your options are limited, you have to look into it as well. So these are East Asia, and next I'd like to get into some topics about Southeast Asia. This is just talking about the market in general. So this is comparing the market size. So this is in index. So if you see Singapore as 100, so Singapore is the biggest market right now. And who else is bigger? So for App Store, it goes to like Thailand, Malaysia, Indonesia, and so on. And for Google Play, Malaysia, Thailand, Indonesia, and these kind of markets follow. But Vietnam, as I mentioned, because they have third-party payment channels, is much bigger. I hear it's like 70% comes of the revenue comes from like third-party payments. So it should be around the market size of Thailand. I've also heard that even in Vietnam, some developers already making more than $1 million in revenue per month. So we hear Vietnam and Thailand as well. We're hearing some developers making more than millions of dollars per month in revenue per app. So the market's starting to grow. And if you look at these kind of numbers, this is just showing the growth rate against the previous year. You can see the market's growing in triples or even like 500%, 700%. So the market's still small compared to East Asia, but it's definitely growing very fast. And just to share some the market evolution that has happened this year. This is just explaining like the ecosystem it's becoming much better. Where this year this company called MC, they are the first mobile game only accelerator in Thailand. So they want to support the many local game developers to excel their business throughout the region. And there's some publishers that came out from Thailand, Indonesia, and Vietnam as well. All these companies or services, products launched this year. And we're seeing some, there's a game specialized accelerator in Malaysia as well. And there's some venture capital that announced that they're going to invest millions of dollars for mobile games in the region as well. So I think we're seeing like more platforms and some of these like the incubators, accelerators, or venture capital starting to invest in the market itself. So I think the ecosystem it's starting to become much better. So I think we're going to see more local players starting to grow as well throughout the next 1-2 years or so. So that's like the environment itself. And the other trend is this is just showing this is Thailand top grossing in 1 year ago. So before it was mostly like English apps. So not many localized apps for this region, but this is the same chart in the same timing 1 year later. But you see there's more localized apps that's becoming in the market. So I think we're seeing more developers launch the games with English first, but they localize to local language. And lastly, this is just about some user acquisition in Southeast Asia. It's more simple. It's similar, but they don't have the pre-launch marketing. So it's basically burst campaigns and networks, so these two options. But very limited options. So there are some incentivized CPI channels. And for ad networks, it's basically Facebook only. InMobies has a huge traffic, but it sometimes doesn't work for developers. So wrap it up for Southeast Asia. I think it's a good time to enter Southeast Asia, maybe next year. But you have to consider localization after you launch the app with English, maybe because for like some key markets, you can get some good revenues there. And Facebook and Line is the two key channels. And in conclusion, as I explained, Asia's market, it's huge, but as I explained, it's very unique. And you have to look into local factors in terms of the market itself, the UA and the payments. There's many local issues there. And the good local partner is important as well, whether it's publisher, localization, marketing, or anything. I think each market is very different. So I think it's crucial that you find a good partner to work with. Okay, so that will wrap it up for me. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Noda-san. Thank you. So for those of you who need to go to meetings, that's the time. Otherwise, some questions, and nothing tweeted, so I guess we'll do it live. Maybe allow me to ask the first question. You didn't mention any of the specific channels like Kakao Talk and others. Is that because it's not of interest at all, or what about it? You mentioned Line, of course, but Kakao Talk in Korea, or?
Okay. So in terms of distribution channel, Kakao is huge in Korea. So I think still around 70% of the top 25 grossing apps is from Kakao. So although they take extra commission, they take extra 30%. So so you have to consider that as well. But they're a huge channel, and the Line also as well.
Yeah, Line too, and there are similar actors.
Yeah, and they're big in Japan. Yeah.
And maybe a last question from my side. You didn't mention so much about on the category of games that make sense for Western developers and publishers to consider. I mean, of course, I guess, how many of you are publishing games and are willing to sell them in Asia? I guess only 2 of you. Okay. So what category of games you think are most relevant from a Western company to bring to Asia?
So I think in general we were seeing the market shift to more mid to hardcore games, especially in East Asia. But casual games are really popular as well. So of course the casual game, I think that's one category, and the other is like I guess like more mid-core games or some strategy games are doing well. Like Supercell, they're very strong in Asia as well. So yeah.
Okay. Any questions from you guys? Come on, I asked the first one, so you should be able to do the second one. Otherwise, I'll pick up someone randomly in the audience to ask questions. Bastien, une question. No questions? There you go. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I heard from some of our Japanese partners that Japanese gamers they only accept, or they accept only content from local developers, and for some other culture-backed content from China or even the Western market, it's very hard to get the Japanese gamer to accept. Is that true? And what is the best solution for us?
Okay. So yeah. So whether Japanese only accept local games or not. So I think it's changing. So it's not that Japanese really intentionally chooses local developed games. But if you simply look at the charts, you see Supercell, King, Machine Zones doing very well. You see Korean developers come to us, Gamebill, doing pretty well in Japan as well now. And we're starting to see some, it's very still few, but some Chinese developers games doing well in the top charts now. So I think it's starting to change. And also before, Japan was mainly card battle games. It was really popular there. So unless it's a card battle game, it was really hard to go up in the charts. But it's not. But because all the Japanese developers made card battle games, so people are sick of it now. So it's not as popular anymore. So it's shifting. It's changing. So I think there's more chance now for Japan market for other even like Western developers as well.
And speaking of Japanese market, it seems that the leverage for engagement are not necessarily similar in Japan than the rest of Asia or the rest of the world. They're more resilient, more dedicated, sometimes much more demanding on small details that we miss coming out of outside Japan. Any tips, any suggestions for our audience on, you know, do's and don't do?
Yeah, so I think we tend to see more games from Western markets when the game is localized into Japanese. The font it's different. Then I guess we can kind of tell it's not localized developed. So I think when you localize the game in terms of language, even the font itself, I think it's good to make sure that it's similar to the fonts that local developers use. Yeah, I think that's one point as well. Yeah.
Okay. And on first-time user experience, on visuals, art, style, anything you think is more relevant than others, or?
So visual, I think even within East Asia, I think each country users have different preferences. I guess Japan, more pop sort of. But I was really surprised that Machine Zone succeeded in the Game of War for Machine Zone. They succeeded in Japan. Their graphic is very Western, and even Superstar as well. So I guess graphic is important as well, but at the same time, we've seen like more Western taste graphic games succeed as well. So I'm not sure if culturalizing the change in the graphic is always is directly connected to the success in Japan. Yeah.
And on acquisition, any hints and tips on specific pricing? You said $4. You said for which seems to be quite high, but would be the average.
Yeah. So for Japan, right? So for Japan, you have to use you mainly use ad networks to get quality users, but because many developers also promote their apps in these major ad networks, the pricings tend to get high as well. So the target, the CPI that we aim for is around like $4 to $5. If it's under that, we consider the developers consider it good because I guess the ARPU is higher, so the lifetime value is higher than that. So it's equal to that.
Well, what would be the ARPU to put against the $4 $5? How much of an ARPU you think we could consider?
I guess it depends on what kind of game. So if it's more casual, I guess the ARPU will be lower than that. But if it's like mid-core, it's much higher, of course.
And no numbers for us?
Numbers. I can just throw out ballpark figures. I don't know. Yeah.
Okay. Sorry.
Just it's not really connected what you say that much, but like in terms of distribution, like the bigger portals like GRE or Dena or DMM or whatever, like I heard that they are struggling a bit since people are downloading all these apps nowadays themselves from the App Store, so they don't really need like a huge platform like these companies provided, so they are struggling a bit. What is your opinion on that? Is that still something that's changing a lot, or that would make a huge impact, like in terms of, if I as a Western company would like to distribute games in Japan?
That's one thing that changed a lot over the past 2-3 years. So in conclusion, GRE and Dena as the distribution channel, they're not strong. If you go into App Store and Google Play, almost 100% developers, they don't even consider it anymore. But they still have some good numbers in terms of their mobile web platforms. So some developers that used to work with them since Feature Phone, they still develop some new games for their mobile web platform. So because at the end, the native App Store and Google Play is more competitive. So it turned out that before GRE and Mobage platform was really competitive, but now it's not as competitive anymore. So some developers intentionally tend to work with their web-based platforms as well. But for native, GRE and Mobage, they don't work at all. And I think they even consider themselves simply as a game developer now for native apps. But other than that, the line, it has become a new distribution channel for native apps. But it tends to be more casual games, and what Line is different from Kakao is Line is very strict on which games they put on their platform, so they limit the numbers of games. So that's very difficult. But Kakao, they're only strong in Korea, but they're very open. So it's pretty much an open platform. So that's like the major difference. But yeah, okay.
Any other question? No? Final remark? No? Well, thank you very much, Nassan.